Okay, you should have it.
Okay, it started mid-presentation. Let me just slide back here. Okay. So we're just going to give a brief update on COVID-19 as it relates to Rowland Heights area. Again, my name is Elise Rasmussen. I am a public health nursing supervisor for the San Gabriel Valley for Department of Public Health. Let me see if I can switch this. Can you guys see this on my screen?
I can see it.
Okay. I want to move this though. Okay, so in unincorporated Rowland Heights, there's a population of 51,022. And so far cases have been 834. And this is an update from 728 on October 10th. So this is the increase that you're seeing from October 10th. That's a case rate of 1635 per 100,000 residents, because as you can see, the population is 51,000, so it almost effectively doubles to get us to the rate of per 100,000 residents. There have been 17 deaths among this population. This is up 1 death from October 10th. And the death rate that we have is 33 per 100,000 residents, up from 31 on October 10th. So as of November 7th, there has been 8,841 people tested in unincorporated Rowland Heights. That is 17,328 rate, again, per 100,000 when you effectively double it. There have been 744 positive persons, and again, the rate per 100,000 when you almost double this becomes 1458. And that's just a means when we make it per 100,000, it's just easier to compare across the geographies. Okay, so more specifically near Rowland Heights, the non-residential settings that met the criteria of a COVID outbreak, which is 3 or more laboratory confirmed cases in work sites. So it's like work sites, food, retail stores. An outbreak in those settings is considered 3 or more laboratory confirmed. So that is ACME Furniture, Bentley Mills, Custom Alloy Sales, Fleetwood Fiber Packaging and Graphics, Mercury Plastics, Sutter Street Manufacturing, and Utility Trailer Manufacturing Company. So these are all City of Industry, but these are what's local to Rowland Heights. And this is as of November 8th, 2020. And then near Rowland Heights, for residential congregate and acute care settings, they actually only need 1 laboratory confirmed resident or 2 or more laboratory confirmed staff that are not in skilled nursing facilities, or 3 or more laboratory confirmed staff in shared housing. So only 1 met that criteria, and it's California Mentor Meatcliff Home in Diamond Bar. So we're just trying to give you a local picture of outbreaks in your area. Now, these are citations. If you had any interested in, what's locally not in compliance with our health officer order, we do go out and give warnings and effectively citations as well. So most recently, November 1st, there was a citation issued to Landmark Church, and then on 10/17 on a Mission Church, and again on a Mission Church for their first annual block party event. Mama. So there's only 1 skilled nursing facility in City of Industry. It's not currently an outbreak. They did have a past outbreak. This is historical. You'll notice here it says number of facilities with an outbreak currently is 0. Without an outbreak is 1. But this is historically the outbreak here. This gives a little bit more information about that outbreak. It's El Encanto Healthcare and Rehabilitation Center. They have 185 licensed beds, 145 total staff, 91 residents. And their cases were 14, 10 of which were staff and 4 of which were residents, with 0 deaths. So right now, we just want everyone to stay informed. So information and guidance is consistently changing. You know, we can always check our public health website regularly and find information on what's currently open, you know, what to do if you're sick, where testing sites are, local data. You can also dial 211. I'll also just speak briefly, I'm sure you guys saw this, that there is a vaccine in the final stages right now by Pfizer. Let me escape here. By Pfizer, and they are applying for an emergency use authorization. So as soon as they have their 2 months of data that they required, which should be later this month, they're going to apply for their emergency use authorization. And once that's approved, you know, they've actually been making the vaccines in mass amounts. So, you know, it could be as early as December or, you know, sometime thereafter where we will be doing, you know, mass vaccinations for the public as soon as it's made available. I imagine that we'll be doing it in priority stages for, you know, essential workers and healthcare workers first and do priority stages, but that more information and that's coming. Is there any questions? Okay, well, thank you very much for your time, everyone.
Back. Oops. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, okay. There was just a bit of a pause. Am I up next?
Denise, are you still on?
I don't see Denise. I'm going to be calling her, but I think we should continue on with the program. This is Carla. There she is. Hi, Denise. You're muted.
Denise, your microphone is up by your ear.
Yeah, Denise, you're showing 2 places.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Now.
Now we can hear you.
Yes. Okay, good. Okay, sorry about that. my computer and Eva's computer died at the same time, and I don't even know how that happened, but I'm sorry about that. Okay. Did Elise finish her presentation?
I did. Thank you, Denise.
Sorry about that. Okay.
No
So
worries.
the next person, the next person that we have is Andrew Shackelford, deputy from Walnut Sheriff Station.
Hi, good evening. Hopefully you guys can hear me okay. I'm going to go ahead and just touch on a couple of things that have been happening recently in Rowland Heights, and then, of course, leave it open for any questions, and I'll follow it with my email address. So if there's any questions or concerns that come up that we don't get a chance to address tonight as far as questions, you can email me, and I'll respond usually within that day if you have any specific areas of interest or concern within the community of Rowland Heights. We're still dealing a little bit with the aftermath of the Project RoomKey, with a few homeless that have still kind of decided to stay in the area. And we've reached out to those individuals when we've contacted them and provided them with the resources that are available through the Los Angeles County, to the Sheriff's Department and from the county itself. We went ahead also, we've renewed a majority of what's called a letter of agency. And if you're not familiar with that, I'll just give you a real quick background on what that is. Basically, a letter of agency allows us to arrest trespassers on private property, commercial properties, mostly our commercial properties and our apartment complexes, without a manager or acting agent having to be present to do a citizen's arrest. So it's a real good way for us to enforce anyone from loitering, trespassing, going through an area where they don't belong, whether they're looking to steal something or take something. It just gives us a good legal standing to be able to stop and talk to people to find out whether they have legitimate business whether it be an apartment complex or a commercial building. We did see a rise in commercial burglaries over the last couple weeks, mainly at some of the public storage areas in the area of Walnut Drive North. We were able to make a contact and make an arrest of somebody that was actually staying at the public storage facility, living there. And since then, surprisingly enough, a lot of our burglaries have decreased from the public storage that's on Walnut Drive North. And then there's another one called Cube Smart on Fairway as well. We've been busy. We were on tactical alert last week regarding the elections. So when we do that, I get pulled off any projects as far as working on these little things for Rowland Heights, and we get thrown out of patrol and answering calls for service to just kind of be a show of force and be out there and be present for the public. So is there any questions that you guys have or concerns in regards to crime or criminal activity or public safety in Rowland Heights?
Any questions?
This is Roy. I have a couple questions for the deputy. Am I up?
Yeah, I
Yes,
can hear
Roy.
you. I can hear you, Roy.
Oh, okay. Pursuant to the recent changes that's gone through economically with the, I'm going to use the term, maybe it's not appropriate, defunding of the Sheriff's Department, $350 million a year. Has there been any discussion in the department to adopt the state of Oregon's profile, which just passed, by the way, that no longer will hard drugs, that means coke, meth, and heroin, etc., be arrest and jail time, but cited out as a $100 fine and recovery units? Has there been any discussion of that?
No, there was a proposition that was passed several years ago. That unfortunately reduced the possession for personal use of most of all major crimes down to a misdemeanor, which is still one level above what Oregon has done, where they've made it just an infraction. Ours are still misdemeanors, so we will normally arrest for that crime, bring them in, hard book them, but then they'll get a citation and be released. So they won't spend any time in jail other than a few hours until they get released with a court date to appear. now 90 days out, where several years ago, those possessions of everything except for the marijuana was a felony in the state of California. But the propositions that were passed a couple of years back reduced all possession of narcotics down to a misdemeanor, with exception of past or prior offenses for certain drug convictions, such as dealing, carrying weapons, and things like that. And if the person is in possession of the narcotics, and we can prove or articulate that they're in possession for sales, then that, of course, is still a felony. But thank goodness, no, I haven't heard any word as far as reducing the narcotics possession crime down to infraction. I think that's one of our biggest obstacles that we're having now, is when they reduced all of the crimes down to a misdemeanor, it really took away a lot of our bite to be able to keep people locked up and force them into rehabilitation. Now they're just simply coming right back out on the street.
Okay, just one more item. Has there been any talk of, again, this is a lot of it's budgetary, as to the Passe Comitatus, where you can get us street people out there helping you out at a fraction of the cost? Any idea of that being talked about?
I haven't heard any of that brought up, other than just rumor and innuendo, but nothing that officially that I've read that's been proposed are generally looked at.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yes, sir. And Roy, if you have any more questions, at the end I'll give you my email address. And I know we're a little limited with time here, and then I have another appointment to go to also for something else. But I'll give you my email, and you can give me I'll give you my phone number as well. It's in my email correspondence. You can contact me whenever you like.
Okay, thank you.
Well, Ms. Malcolm.
I was going to follow up on something that Roy was asking. Did we have a problem with those narcotics in our area specifically?
No, I mean, for our particular area, yeah, there is some narcotics, but it's not in my experience and training, considered a heavy narcotics area. More of the casual user passing through in that area.
Okay.
I'd like to get your email and phone number too.
Absolutely, and I'll do it right at the end. Yeah, I'll give it out at the very end. Not a problem. I just want to see if there's any additional questions that anybody has for me that I could address, or concerns that we can follow up with. No?
Mentioned an artist weekend when he was younger, and people from the United States, they tell me
I think that's somebody.
He told me it looks like a little Nick Jack.
Okay, sorry about that. Is there any other questions?
I didn't hear that last portion. I don't know if someone was talking over somebody. I didn't hear that.
I think it was somebody talking in the background, and I needed them. It wasn't an actual question.
No problem.
Any other questions for Deputy Shack? Okay.
Okay, my email address is ARSHACKE@LASD.org. So it's ARSHACKE@LASD.org. And if you correspond with me via email, when I reply back, I'll give you my office numbers and the contact number for the station. You can always reach me at the station as well on the service line, which is 909-595-2264.
Great. Thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you very much. You guys have a wonderful evening. Thank you.
You too.
Bye.
Next up is CHP Marcos Iniguez.
Good evening, everybody. I wanted to first report that we successfully graduated. Well, we had approximately 78 CHP officers just graduate 10 days ago from our academy up in Sacramento. About 27 weeks. They keep adding weeks for new and innovative learning domains, they call them. So I think now it's up to 27 or 28 weeks at our academy, which is it's a living academy in Sacramento. So we received out of those 77 or 78, we have 7 officers that just started today at our office there in Santa Fe Springs. So you may see them out on patrol with their field training officer. And just to let you guys know, we have 7 that just came in, new officers. In our area of Santa Fe Springs, we investigated last month in October a total of 550 traffic collisions. We issued approximately 1,804 citations, unrelated obviously to these traffic collisions. We had 101 citations we issued for people driving without a license. They were unlicensed. 384 citations for people driving solo in the carpool lane. We had 213 citations for people driving over 65 miles an hour in that posted speed limit zone, and 27 for going over 100 miles an hour. 77 for not wearing their seatbelts. And I wanted to touch on the officers, but unfortunately it wasn't necessarily in the Rolling Heights community, but it's right next to it in Hacienda Heights. We had a fatal traffic collision that happened on the 60 eastbound at the Azusa Avenue off-ramp there by the mall, by Puerto Hills Mall. It was a bicyclist involved with a semi-truck, tractor trailer. And the reason why I want to highlight it, obviously it's unfortunate what happened to the bicyclist. He ended up dying of his injuries from the collision. But that bicyclist was actually traveling in the wrong direction. You guys all may know, and those of you that don't know, when you're on a bicycle, you need to be traveling the same direction as traffic. He was actually going northbound in the southbound lanes. So when you reach that intersection of the off-ramp, the tractor waited, it turned green, it was his turn to go. And so the driver said he started to go, and the witnesses say that the bicyclist also decided to go at the same time as the tractor trailer, and unfortunately they collided, and the bicyclist passed away. They took him to Pomona Valley, I think, and he died there at the hospital. So please be aware of that. Those of you that do ride bicycles, and I'm sure you guys are wearing your helmets, even though you're not required to, 18 and over, you're not required to, but I highly recommend wearing a helmet at all times when you're on a bicycle. Follow the rules, follow the laws. I mean, they're there for a reason. They're there to make sure that we're all safe, and hopefully none of this, we don't get injured in any type of way. But if you're on a bicycle, travel the same direction as traffic. And if you're not, if you're just walking, I recommend going the opposite direction. At least you can try to jump out of the way if a car's coming your way. We also had another traffic fatal collision that happened. This was nowhere near the area, but we cover it. And I want to highlight something when it comes to this fatal traffic collision. It was on the 91 eastbound at Lakewood Boulevard. So it's right around Downey, Bellflower, that whole area down there. It was a motorcyclist that was going about, they said anywhere between 90 and 100 miles an hour. People were calling it in. One of our officers got behind it, tried to make an enforcement stop, and the motorcyclist fled. So he exited the freeway there at Lakewood, and he headed south towards Downey. And he was going 80, 90, 100 miles an hour on the surface streets. So our officer discontinued that pursuit, and as he was heading down, he was going southbound, he saw that motorcyclist collided with a Kia SUV, and the motorcyclist rider ended up dying of his injuries there from that collision. So our office is on record right now to for all time, since they started keeping tracks of pursuits, we're on track to have the highest pursuit count ever. And so now we're reaching, I think we're close to 200 in this year, starting in January. So I just want to highlight that to make sure you guys are careful. You guys are listening to sirens and anything that may be happening. If there's somebody that's just driving recklessly, call it in, call 911. We have helicopters everywhere now. The Sheriff's Department helps us out quite a bit. We have 2 helicopters, just the CHP. They're out in Fullerton. They come out and help us out all the time. Sometimes LAPD will even be out there. So call it in, give us a license plate, description of the vehicle, which way they're heading, and we'll try to get somebody out there as soon as we can. But please be careful. Please be careful. Listen for those sirens. Obviously, pull over to the right when it's safe to do so. If you can't put your emergency lights on, just let us know that you see us, and we'll try to get around you safely. We do not want anyone to get injured. We also don't want to get injured as well. So just be aware of that. We have, I don't know if I've actually ever given you guys our Instagram account and our Twitter account. I'm going to start doing a better job of posting something like traffic. If there's like a traffic incident and traffic is backed up, I'm going to start posting that on Twitter. So if you guys aren't following us and you have Twitter, it's at CHP_SFS. And I'll try to do a better job of putting stuff out there when I'm working, and I'll see if some others can help us out, let you guys know what's going on around the area with traffic conditions and any major incidents that you might want to try to avoid. Our Instagram is CHP_Santa_Fe_Springs. And we'll use that mostly to highlight. We do a lot of traffic collisions, so we do a lot of pursuit on there. We'll post pictures and then we'll give a brief synopsis of what happened in that incident. And then our Facebook is CHP-Santa Fe Springs. I wanted to touch kind of briefly on we were talking about drugs earlier. I'm a drug recognition expert. When we legalized marijuana here in California, the governor and the commissioner saw a need or thinks that there's going to be a need for more drug recognition experts. We're basically trying to push as many CHP officers as we can to go into this 2-week course to become recognition experts and be able to do more evaluations on people that we believe are impaired under the influence of a drug and not just alcohol. We just had one. This guy was on the 5 freeway. He was under the influence of heroin, and driving habits are exactly the same as a lot of times as someone who's impaired of alcohol. They're either driving too slow, too fast, they're weaving, they're brake checking for no reason, those types of things. Those are things that we look out for. We made an enforcement stop, and this guy that had been doing heroin since he was 16 years old, and he was 40 years old now. So he was heavily sedated, he was on Suboxone, he was on heroin, he had taken fentanyl. So now a lot of these heroin addicts are upgrading their drug to fentanyl because heroin isn't doing it for them anymore. So he'd been doing fentanyl 3 or 4 days prior to driving, and he felt like he was coming down off the fentanyl, so he did some heroin, and then he got on the road and thought it was safe for him to drive from Anaheim to Los Angeles. So please be careful of that. Call it in. Call 911 if you see something like that. Again, give us a license plate, give us a description of the driver, and again, we'll try to get drivers out there. We'll try to get a TSP officer out there as soon as we can. We were also on tactical alert prior to the election. We discontinued it on Wednesday following the election. So we were also out there working 12 and a half hour shifts prior to and one day after the election. So thankfully everything was ended up peaceful. And we didn't really have to do any type of enforcement on we were down in downtown LA, which is where most of the protesting and rioting and looting happened. So with that, I'll open it up for any questions.
I have a question. Is it possible to have somebody between the hours of 5:30 and 6 a.m. on Blanford and Fieldbrook? There are stop signs there, and people are blowing right through the stop signs like they don't even exist.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm writing it down right now. You said during the week?
Yeah, during the week between 5:30 and 6.
Okay. Blanford, and you said Fieldbrook, right?
Right.
Got it. Okay. Yeah, absolutely. We'll get somebody out there.
Right there at the school, not Fieldbrook, but Philbrook.
Got it. Okay. Oh yeah.
There's 2 streets.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll get somebody out there.
Thank you.
No problem.
Any other questions or concerns of Mark Lenegas? CHP? Thank you, Marco. We appreciate you being here tonight.
Oh yeah, thank you guys.
Next up is Jacob Wallach from Gil Cisneros' office.
The second one, I think Dave Malcolm will be very happy to hear. The dual enrollment, our program allow high school students to take college courses and receive both high school and college credit. Despite the COVID pandemic, this year, our dual enrollment program, the courses increased 30% more than last year. So that's my report. Thank you.
Any questions of Judith? Hearing none, thank you very much, Judy.
Thank you.
Ms. Jackman?
Yes.
Mitchell, I don't know if this question is for Mr. Holden or not. I mean, last week I was asking for an update last month on the bike paths at Fairway and Fullerton. If, why no work is being done on those passes anymore? Overpasses?
Do you have an answer on that, Nick?
So you're looking for an update for the bike path on Fairway and Fullerton. This is the first I've heard about this. Is it related to like cleaning the area, or?
I think he's referring to the overpass work that's being done by the Carl's Jr. / 60 freeway. Is that correct, Joe?
Yes. Yeah, I thought it would have been completed long ago, and all of a sudden they haven't been doing anything on it for months. And it's a horrible traffic situation there that's used a lot, especially for Home Depot and up to Gale and everything there. And it's just went dead. I'm wondering what happened to that project.
Okay. I can follow up with Lauren. I believe that she may have an update regarding that project. So let me check with her and the Alameda Corridor East. I know that they are involved as well, and get back to you on that. I'm sorry, I don't have an update right now.
We may be able to get them to come in next month and talk about the updates on that process if we can get a hold of them.
While you're checking that, can you also check on the Fullerton, what do they call it? Grade separation? Because,
Railroad.
and railroad, because we haven't really seen any work being done there for quite a while.
Okay. Yes, I will follow up on that as well.
Just sort of as to, how many times do we, expect an update and pass it on months to months? I mean, how long do we go before we just don't address you anymore?
I think what we could do is we could have the Alameda Corridor come in like on a quarterly basis and update us if you'd like. That wouldn't be a problem.
If I would like it.
Or the community would like that. I don't have a problem with getting them to come in. Any other questions? Henry, you're muted. You can't hear it. We can't hear you. You're still muted. Okay. You're still muted, Henry. There's something with the muting on the computer tonight. I don't know what the deal is. Okay, so I wanted to make an announcement. If Henry can get on, just interrupt me if you'd like. I just wanted to make an announcement before our next speaker. Thank you for everybody who has renewed their membership with the RHCCC. If you would like to renew your membership and make it, you can mail it to P.O. Box 8171 in Roland Heights, and the zip code's 91748, and the yearly dues is only $12, and it helps with supporting our programs. So if you need that information, you can always email me and I will be happy to provide that. Henry, did you get your... Yeah, I don't know what's wrong. Okay, so we're gonna move on and once Henry gets his voice back. I'm sorry, go ahead. Judith, did you say something?
I say maybe Henry can type his comment on the chat.
Oh, that's a good idea. Okay.
I don't know if it's related, but Henry had posted a question on local social media about something going on in the by Pathfinder about the horse trail, maybe
Whether they're taking it out from the sidewalk.
whether they're putting a sidewalk in instead or taking it out. So
that was at Pathfinder Park.
yeah, and I don't know if that was Henry's question, but I did see he had posted that.
Nick, do you know anything about that? It's a trail by Pathfinder Park that actually has been cleared out, and it looks like there's work being done. Do you know if that's going to be a sidewalk or if it's going to be just an updated trail? Or
in terms of the trail by Pathfinder Park, I don't have any. I'm not aware of what they're working on or what that would be, but I can follow up on that if you'd like me to.
that would be great.
Okay.
That way I can let Henry know. Okay.
Denise,
So what we're gonna.
I just got a quickie to Mr. Adamo, is that something that on that situation with the Alameda corridor and so forth, wouldn't it be just super fine if the coordinating council formed a 2 or 3 or 4 person committee and get the contacts and set up just a team of people to follow that thing, and then each meeting, boom, got the report. Just a thought.
Thank you. I actually like that thought. Okay. Well, thank you, all of our speakers tonight. Tonight we have Anna Bardillo, who is a project assistant at San Gabriel Valley Council of Governments. I heard her speak on this program a couple months ago, and I wanted to get her in so that she could talk to our community about the interaction between humans and coyotes. So I'm going to leave it to her to give her presentation. Anna, are you there?
Hi Denise, can you hear me?
I can.
Okay. All right. Sorry, I think I need to be able to share the screen. Oh, great.
Yes.
Thank you. All right. Hi everyone. I'm actually a resident of Pomona, but I'm a very big fan of Rowland Heights. It is my family's favorite place to go dining out and go hiking. So here we go. All right. Okay. Can everybody see my screen?
Uh-huh.
Fantastic. All right. So hi everyone. My name is Anna Bardillo. I am a management aide at the San Gabriel Valley Council of Governments. And tonight I'm going to be talking a little bit about our neighborhood coyote program. Unfortunately, this program doesn't apply specifically to Rowland Heights. However, it is hopefully I will be able to give you guys some good tips on, what to do when you see a coyote, and also to, get some ideas going in case you all would be interested in either joining our program or implementing a program of your own. So that being said, so really quickly, I'm going to do an introduction into the San Gabriel Valley Council of Governments. For those of you who are unfamiliar, I'm also going to quickly go into the Neighborhood Coyote Program, go into what we offer, and then I'll end the day with some pet safety tips and some Q&A if you have any questions. Okay, so the San Gabriel Valley of Governments is really like a little miniature UN type of thing, but in terms of cities in the San Gabriel Valley. Our governing board includes representatives from 30 cities, 3 LA County supervisorial districts, and 3 municipal water districts. And they work together to address regional issues of importance, including transportation, homelessness, environment, and water. And so we have several programs, including water resiliency, public outreach, and most recently, I'm talking within the past year, we've gotten into coyote management and the neighborhood coyote program. And so this really came about because a number of our cities came to our governing board, and they were very concerned because they had been experiencing a large number of calls related to coyotes. Human interactions have increased greatly as we've been expanding and developing, and also coyotes have also been very adaptable to urban environments. And so coyotes, they really, they don't know city limits, they don't know county limits. And so the need for some sort of regional consistency was really put in place. And so really what came out of these discussions was the Coyote Management Task Force. This task force met 3 times last year in 2019 and ultimately came up with 2 very important documents. And so the first document is our Regional Coyote Management Framework. And really this is a template document for our cities and everyone we serve to serve in case they didn't have a plan for coyote management or in case they were interested in creating one of their own. So, or expanding one of their own. And so we created this template document that has a bunch of public education recommendations that we've done to collaborate with the California Department of Fish and Wildlife, the local humane societies, the University of California, and ultimately it's just a planning document. And it really expanded upon, for some cities, the plans that they already had. And then we also found that we needed a coyote management implementation plan. It was later rebranded to the Neighborhood Coyote Program, so it's the exact same thing. But basically, we recognized that some of our cities didn't have the capacity to take on their full-on coyote program with limited staff and so forth. And so the COG actually created this program as a mechanism to help serve and support those cities. And what that kind of encompasses is educating residents on human coyote conflict mitigation strategies, and then also hosting a very robust, actually, coyote reporting and response mechanism. And so I'll touch on this point in just a second. And so really the main goal of the Neighborhood Coyote Program is to ensure the safety of residents and pets through education and resourcing. We want to make sure that we promote we want to promote peaceful interactions between coyotes and humans. Our goal is not, we're not able to, trap coyotes and do so forth, and it's not scientifically backed to trap coyotes and so forth. But what we do find, at least scientifically backed, is that education and resourcing and overall approaches to coyote mitigation and management are really the most effective at promoting our safety. And so with that being said, we currently have 10 cities that are within our program that contribute and towards the program and that we work with specifically to do our resources with. And those include like Alhambra, Arcadia, San Marino, Temple City, and so forth. And as I mentioned, unfortunately, we don't service Rowland Heights, but this is a good starting point for discussions about possible coyote management or any sort of frameworks that you might be interested in. And so some of the things that we make sure to offer our residents include a hotline access and reporting tools. We do pet safety planning, workshops, and so forth. We also have referrals to resources. We maintain communication with state resources, county resources, other cities that are maintaining, coyote programs and so forth. And so we just have a running database and relationships with those resources in our neighborhoods. And then we also feature a lot of workshops and trainings, which I'll get to in just a second. All right. So every time we get I'm just going to touch on our hotline for just a second, because every time we get a call on our hotline, or we also collect data from the University of California's Coyote Catcher system. We also collect data from online reporting forms and our email and so forth. We've developed a system where we classify reports basing them on like how extreme and how abnormal the coyote behavior is. So most of our reports are definitely in the 1 and 2 range, wherein you simply see a coyote in a public space. Just because a coyote is there does not mean it's dangerous. It is a part of our Southern California landscape, and so it's more of a precautionary. Oh, this is how many coyotes we have. They're not acting aggressively. They're just being coyotes. And as it gets further, 3 is unfortunately when a coyote kills or an attended or unattended pet, and we would like to avoid that as much as possible. And then going up to 5, which is, we haven't had any of those reports yet, very luckily, but that is when a coyote bites or injures a human. And so, going on to pet safety planning, the biggest, takeaway from this slide that I want to let you know is that coyotes, it's not personal. They're not going after your cats and your dogs with some sort of vendetta. They just simply see them as food, and it's part of, they see any small mammal as food, and especially when they are very easily to get, such as when they're in open spaces or when they're off the leash or when they're open in a backyard that isn't properly enclosed. And unfortunately, the tough thing for cats is that there's a lot of dangers for cats besides coyotes, even though coyotes do tend to be a safety risk to cats. Outdoor cats especially face a lot of dangers from cars, diseases, foxes, parasites, raccoons, birds, you name it. So the only way to guarantee your cat safety is to keep it indoors. And in terms of dogs, our biggest things is to, if you're going to take your dog out, try to keep it on a leash, try to keep it on a 6-foot leash. You never know when that coyote is going to be around the corner, and they're going to see that dog as a snack. And the biggest thing is to let that coyote know that, no, this is your dog, this is yours, it's not theirs. And so one of the biggest things we promote is actually hazing. And for those of you who don't know, hazing is a method where, it's not, what happens in college. It is when you act big and scary and loud in front of a coyote. And so you scare it off. It might take a couple seconds. These coyotes are pretty smart. They might turn around and look at you after like 10 feet and check you out and see if you're gonna keep hazing it. But just keep hazing it, and it should be running away. Of course, there are exceptions. Since you see like a mother coyote and her pups, try to avoid hazing that situation, because like any other mother, they are very protective of their young. And as I mentioned before, depending on the severity, depending on what we're seeing in our communities, we make sure to get our residents the resources they need. And if, something that I learned from my father and from my parents is that if I didn't know something, always know who and where to go to find the answer. And so, with our team, if there is some question that we have, or some, we are a brand new pilot program, if there's something that we don't know, we have this list of referrals and resources that we can always go to, and which we maintain relationships with, to make sure we have the right answers and that we get the best answers for our residents. Moving on to some of the materials we have in terms of our workshops and trainings. Again, we like to make sure that at the end of the day, our goal is to make sure that our residents feel confident when they see a coyote. We don't want them to be scared. We don't want them to freak out. We want them to know what to do, which is, probably hazing. We want to make sure that they know what attracts coyotes to the yard and how to kind of get rid of those things. Again, those things are food, water, and shelter. And so as you can see on this picture to the right, I have a copy of one of our yard audits. This is all available on our website at sgbcog.org/coyote materials. And so you are all welcome to check it out, to see what they got, to use it. In terms of our yard audit, it's just, a list of things that you can look out for in your yard to avoid coyotes from going in there and being attracted and hanging out. We want to make sure that our houses are as safe and kind of coyote-proof as possible, to keep everyone's, pets safe, to keep our children safe, and to also not encourage these animals to be so close to us, for their sake and for ours. And then we also, want to note some seasonal behavior changes. We know that in this past, the late summer, August, September time, there was a lot of coyote activity, especially, not just because of the fires, but also because, these mothers they had their pups in the spring and were taking them out to teach them how to hunt and so forth. So, it wouldn't be surprising if you saw a little bit more coyote activity in the late summer, just because those moms are teaching their young how to hunt and so forth. And then also we really want to stress to residents the importance of identifying normal versus abnormal coyote behaviors. A lot of times we get questions from residents asking, this coyote was looking at me, it was dangerous, it was hungry, it was going to want to eat me. And the truth is that simply seeing a coyotes are very curious. And so simply seeing them absolutely does not make them, a danger in that moment. They're very similar to dogs in that if they are if they are really upset or if they are really in a dangerous situation, they will have the fur on the back of their neck, raised up. They will be hissing at you. That's really abnormal coyote behavior, and we do not want to promote that. But we also want residents to feel confident, because in the vast majority of coyote interactions, it's really just normal coyote behavior. And so we're almost at the end of my presentation, but really quickly I wanted to touch on coyote deterrence. So I mentioned getting rid of attractants such as food, water, and shelter. That's the #1 way of keeping coyotes out of your yard. But, I know it can be difficult sometimes. So I especially if you have things like a pool, it's really difficult because that's a water source that's hard to keep covered. So, some of the recommendations we have include, installing coyote road rollers on your fences and walls. Coyote rollers are just things that you put on the top of your fence, and they prevent the coyote from having that foothold. They can easily hop over 6 feet. So, the rollers are helpful. I will say that they are on the more expensive side, especially if you have a large yard. So, some of the cheaper things we recommend are, motion detecting lighting systems or sprinklers. If you see a coyote in your yard, you can get a hose and spray it. That's a really effective hazing method. But also just motion detection lighting and so forth are usually very effective at keeping coyotes out of your yard. Another thing too are scent-based deterrents. We also get questions a lot about things like wolf urine. You'd be surprised how much I talk about wolf urine on a daily basis. The thing with wolf urine is that coyotes are smart, and after a couple days they realize that there are no wolves in the area, and you have to keep reapplying it, and it gets very expensive. And so, other scent-based deterrent that you might want to look into include ammonia-soaked rags. Those, according to CDFW, or the California Department of Fish and Wildlife, are very effective, as well as vinegar. Those are much cheaper options than going out and buying gallons of wolf urine. If you have any questions or you're interested in seeing more of what we do, we are very active on social media. We're available on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter also, where we promote our events, and we usually have live stream events available to residents who are not necessarily a part of the town hall or the city that we necessarily serve. I'll get back to this slide in a moment to go over some contact information. I'll leave it up for a couple minutes if you have any questions or you're interested in getting a hold of me. And finally, I'm going to end off with some additional coyote information and resources. I know that I mentioned that unfortunately the residents of Rowland Heights are not able to use our hotline. However, I do want to recommend Coyote Catcher, which you'll see is the second bullet point. And that is a University of California system wherein they trap coyotes in the area. They also provide education and resourcing and so forth. So if you're interested in looking and learning more about that, their website is the second bullet point. And then, you know, I'm also bringing it down to maybe the bottom one where it says produce pickup. Put that there because, you know, one of the biggest coyote attractants is rotting fruit. And I know that in this city in particular, there's lots of beautiful fruit trees. And so if you have an overabundance of them and you would like to give some of it to communities that are a little bit less fortunate, there's definitely organizations that will take your leftover food and fruit and will pass it on to residents that need it. And so with that being said, I'm going to leave it my contact information in case you wanted to take it down. It also has our email address, our website, and our phone number. And that's about it. So thank you so much for your time.
Does anybody have any questions of Anna?
Well, I'd like to make a mention that coyotes are predators. They multiply very quickly. They have no qualms about jumping in your yard and taking your pets and threatening your kids. I mean, they got sightings all over the state and inside their cities. They're not a fuzzy little squirrel that we want to alter our lifestyle so they can be okay coming into our yards and just kind of shoo them away. They are deadly predators. They're multiplying quickly and they have no business in our community. Bleeding hearts for coyotes, as a community. A person that lives in the community, have people that have had encounters, many in the communities, some of the mobile home parks where I work in. They frequent them every evening. And they terrorize the people walking their animals and everything else, and they multiply quickly. They're not nice little animals. They multiply so quickly, and they are predators. I don't know if your organization is trying to alter us so we can make them feel like this is their area, they were here first. Oh, I'm sorry. They need to be managed, just like the Fish and Game Department. If they need to be trapped and moved someplace else, that is a great alternative, but the counties don't allow homeowners to do that. If they are, most people, I don't know if you know them, if you get a permit to trap it, you can trap it, but you can't release them any more than a mile away from you. And again, that's no, for coyote, miles, nothing. So there really isn't too much out there to protect homeowners and us against coyotes. And to alter us, is this another mask we're going to wear, type of thing to protect us, but to allow them to wander around? I don't know, that's what it's, as a homeowner and in a community and seeing what coyotes do. And I don't know, I'm just not a bleeding heart for coyotes.
That's very understandable, sir. I mean, we're definitely not trying to advocate that they're just like cute and cuddly creatures. They're wild animals. And at the end of the day, what we're trying to do is reduce that human-coyote conflict. And, we've talked with the California Department of Fish and Wildlife, we've talked with humane societies, we've talked with people who've been dealing with coyotes for a very long time. And, according to these biologists who study coyotes and who, dedicate their lives to figuring out how can we reduce these conflicts, how can we protect their pets, what they found is that when they study communities that invest in things like trapping, right? I wish that there was a simple way, because these coyotes, they're smart. They're very smart. They're one of the most adaptable creatures in our urban environments. And so, we have to be smart too. And what we found is that when communities trap coyotes, what it does is that it opens up this whole range where coyotes will suddenly have all the remaining. First of all, they'll get rid of the stupid coyotes, like a couple of them, and then it'll open up the floor for all the remaining coyotes to start producing at much higher levels. And so what ends up happening is not so much that the coyote population will decline. It might decline for a second, but then those remaining coyotes, which now have more access to food, they have more space, they have all the things that can make them healthier and thrive more, will start producing more and more, much bigger litters. And what you find in these cities that promote trapping is that their populations don't decrease, they're actually super expensive and they increase dramatically, in quite a few cases in terms of the coyote population. And so that leaves us kind of with a tricky solution because we're like, we can't just trap them because we definitely don't want to increase their population. And at the same time, we want to, the unfortunate thing is that by reducing their food sources and residents, I wish there was a simpler answer, but by reducing their food sources, it starves these coyotes, it starves them in a way that, it lets Mother Nature take its course, and it limits their population, it limits their food supply so that, when they don't get the same amount of food from our trash cans, from our yards, from our pet food that's outside, it actually, makes them produce less. And so, I don't want to see more coyotes in your yards. I don't want to see them getting, I don't want to see your pets and our pets get in more conflicts with them in the long run. And so that's the reasoning behind why not trapping. And that's also kind of the conundrum that we're trying to work through, and through this program, which is through, education. We want to make sure that residents aren't so much afraid of coyotes, but feel confident and know what to do when they see one. They know how to react. They know how to scare it off, and that's one of the goals that we have in this program.
Yes, I'm not new with coyotes, and the reason they're in the community is like the Fish and Game Department. Your habitat, you keep the wildlife in a population that is going to provide the habitat provides for them. Coyotes themselves will overpopulate and they start killing each other off, and what happens is then they go into the cities and stuff and start terrorizing the residents because the habitat now that they have is overcrowded, and the coyotes themselves push them out. So these are rogue coyotes that come into our neighborhoods. The reason why they have hunting regulations is to keep the habitat and the wildlife in a balance so that wildlife can still live and not starve to death, like you say, within their habitat and flourish within their habitat. If they get too many, then they allow hunters to go in and thin them out so that they can still live and be healthy. But the problem with coyotes, they mate indiscriminately, they produce many, and it's not just in the spring when they have the pups. They have pups all year long. They don't practice birth control. If it gets too crowded in an area, they will chase the other coyotes out. They have their little packs. And where do they go? They come into our backyards and start terrorizing us. And now you're suggesting that we should somehow welcome them, is what it sounds like.
I don't think she's actually saying to welcome them, Joe. I think what she's saying is that we need to take precautions and keep our animals inside and not put dog food out and not give the coyotes a reason to come into our community.
Doctor, they're jumping into our yards. Now, if I want my dog to be able to be in the backyard, and I don't really have my animals in the house, my dogs, they're in the backyard. Well, I'm sorry, coyotes will jump and take your dogs, and they'll go in packs, no matter what size your dog is. And I mean, I'm not talking about something one or two encounters. This goes on daily. And these dogs, these coyotes are rogue coyotes that are out of their habitat because they are being pushed out of their habitat because there's too many of them. And
I think for time's sake, what we should do is give you the number to the Fish and Wildlife, and maybe they can help with the situation in the back.
many people have done that, and they don't, they turn it over to our Humane Society, which will do nothing. They won't even allow you to buy a trap to trap pretty much anything. You have to have a certain license to be able to do that. And if you do trap it, again, you can't release it more than a mile away, which is, you know, it's quite an interesting situation. Now we have another agency that's coming up that's just promoting what's already there, but it's not solving the coyote issue.
Do we have any other questions of anybody else for the program? Thank you, Anna. I appreciate your presentation tonight. And if you could send me a copy of the PowerPoint, that would be great.
No problem, I'll get back to you.
Does anybody else have any questions of anybody that's left? Okay, well, thank you everybody for coming tonight. I appreciate it. Our next meeting will be on December 14th at 7 p.m. Have a great evening.
Denise, just
Yes,
one thing. I nominate, if I get the name right, Joe Adamo as captain of the Alameda Quarter team. So he's got my vote. And to the Coyote situation, it's just, as he has indicated, it's like in your face. We have to change. And as it says on my business card, if nothing changes, nothing changes. We need to have a culling process. Good job, Joe. Bye.
Thank you everybody for coming.